talking about flavour camps in bourbon, we've got to look at it in a different way than we do with single malt whisky. In single malt whisky, we're dealing with malted barley, one cereal. In bourbon, we're dealing with three. With corn, remember it has to be a minimum 51% corn to be straight bourbon. Rye, maybe wheat, as well as some malted barley. And also the influence of brand new American oak barrels. So in flavour camps, what I would like to take you through is the influence that each of these ingredients has on the final product. They should be discernible within the bourbon you're tasting. So let's start with our first one, which is corn. Minimum 51% corn to make a straight bourbon. So when you pick up the glass and you taste the bourbon as well, and you're picking up aromas and flavours of popcorn, or sweet corn, or corn chips, or fresh corn, or even the leaves around a corn husk, that's the corn coming through. When you're tasting it and you get a fat, buttery texture in your mouth, again, that's the corn speaking. The more powerful those flavours and aromas are, the likelihood is the higher the corn content is. Remember, it can be 70, 80% at times. So that is what you look for to try and identify the corn content and what corn brings to bourbon. Fatness and juiciness and a roundness on the tongue. The other two small grains, as they're called, are rye and wheat. Let's start with rye. Rye was a grain which was planted by the first settler distillers in America, and it was the signature American style until Prohibition kicked in. Although rye whiskies, straight rye, i.e. minimum 51% rye in the mash bill, these whiskies are gaining in popularity once more. Rye has always been used as one of the small grains. So how do you pick it up? Well, if you are smelling your bourbon and you pick up a really intense, spicy character, there's the rye talking to you. If you taste the bourbon, you get that lovely kind of soft mellowness which is coming from our corn, and then halfway through, bam! In comes spiciness, there's the rye talking to you. Rye swaggers through those doors like the cowboy. You pick up some ginger, rye bread, some intense citrus characters, more cherry, a menthol or camphor note. It's big, it's bold, it's giving acidity on the back of the palate. So you're thinking in three dimensions really when you're tasting bourbon. What's the corn giving? What is the small grains giving? If it's rye, it's going to give you that attack. So a rye whiskey, so that's minimum 51% rye, is going to be giving you even more of this intense spiciness. That's rye. Wheat, on the other hand, is gentle and soft. So if your bourbon doesn't have any of this intense spiciness, wheat is going to have been used. Wheat brings out floral aspects. It brings in a gentle honeyed element and some toffee as well. So more mellow, gentle, slightly more floral aromas are generated. The elephant in the room here is the influence of oak. New American oak barrels. So therefore bourbon is going to have big hits of coconut and vanilla and some sweet spice. And as it matures, like all mature spirits, it moves into this really interesting fungal area of leather and cigar. And on some American whiskies, especially those from Tennessee, you often pick up a little hint of sootiness, which is coming from the Lincoln County process, that charcoal filtration. So flavour camps are working in a slightly different way within bourbon. They're there to help you identify what the makeup of that bourbon has been, what its mash bill is. They blend into each other. It's hard to separate as clearly as perhaps you can with Scotch. But as long as you obey these basic principles, the fat sweetness of corn, the intense spiciness of rye, that mellow sweetness of wheat, and the influence of the oak, you're on a winner.